Hello everyone, good day to you all. I am again Ian L. Palalios and I am back for another video. So this video will be all about microprocessors, particularly how CPU, GPU, and SAP1 works, and the reason of their innovations. So we can't waste any time now, right? So let's get started. I will first discuss about the CPUs and how do they work. So first, the CPU or Central Processing Unit is basically the brain of the computer. If computer were a human, the CPU would be a part that thinks, decides, and reacts, right? So every time you click something, type something, or open an app, the CPU is working behind the scenes. The CPU works using a simple process called fetch, decode, and execute cycle. First, it fetches an instruction from memory. This instruction is like a note that says, hey, CPU, do this. Then the CPU decodes the instruction. This means that it reads the note and tries to understand what it needs to do. After that, the CPU executes the instruction, which means it actually does the action. Let's imagine this. The CPU as a very fast worker in a factory. The worker grabs a paper from a pile, reads what's written on it, and then performs the task written there. The worker does this again and again and again, millions, maybe billions of times per second. Even something simple like opening a calculator app still involves a huge number of these tiny steps. Inside the CPU are important parts. One part is the control unit, which acts like a boss giving orders. It tells other parts when to work out and what to do. Another part is the ALU or arithmetic logic unit. This is where math and logic happen. So if the computer needs to add numbers or compare values, the ALU does that work. Then there are registers, which are I think very small but very fast memory spaces inside the CPU. They like temporarily hold data while the CPU is working. The CPU does not think on its own. It just follow follows instruction, right? But it follows them, but it follows them so fast that it feels like the computer is thinking. So that speed is what makes a modern computer feel like an instant. Okay, that's it for the fundamentals of the CPUs and how they operate. But we need to explore the history behind it, right? So there are evolutions of this and I will going to explain it to you, don't worry. Early, CPUs were just very simple compared to today's CPUs. They could only do a small number of tasks and work at a very slow speed. Back then, CPUs followed instructions just one at a time and didn't have fancy features like CPUs today. So the basic mechanics of a CPU stay the same over the years. Even the most modern CPU still fetches instructions, decodes them, and executes them. What changed is how fast it does this and how many things it can handle at once. That's the difference. Think of an think of an early CPU like a person using a calculator very slowly, pressing one button at a time. A modern CPU is like thousands of calculators working together at insane speed. The idea is still the same, but the performance is very, very, very different. It's completely different. So, as technology improved, CPUs became smaller, faster, of course, and more efficient. Engineers found ways to pack more transistors into a single chip, which allowed CPUs to do more work without becoming physically bigger. It's so fascinating on how CPU evolves, right? Like the rise of 64-bit things. But what about the x86 that we always see and notice? I always notice that x86 in my computer. Don't worry, I will explain it to you. So the x86 architecture became popular because it worked well and kept improving over time. One big reason it succeeded is backward compatibility. This means that newer CPUs could still run older programs. Imagine this, buying a new phone but still being able to run apps from 10 years ago without problems. That's what x86 did for the computers. So, software developer liked these because they didn't have to rewrite everything from scratch. Many computers use x86 for more software was made for it. And because more software was made for it, even more people bought x86 computers. So this cycle helped x86 dominate personal computers. Over time, x86 processors became faster and smarter. They supported more instructions, handled more memory, and became more reliable. Even today, many laptops, even mine, and desktops still rely on x86 based CPUs. You know, as much as technology grows, older programs still exists and backward compatibility is a must in a computer. That is why x86 is one of the most essential things to ever invented or innovated. But hold on, we need some interface, right? Now I will talk about operating systems and why it's so needed. So as CPUs improved, operating systems also changed. Early operating systems were very, very basic. They could only run one program at a time. So if you wanted to do something else, you had to stop the current program. Modern operating systems like Windows 11, can run many programs at the same time. They manage memory, control hardware, and decide which programs gets CPU time. The CPU doesn't choose what to run, the operating system tells the CPUs what to do next. I think think of the operating system as a traffic controller. It tells CPU, it tells the CPU which program goes first, which one waits, and which ones get stopped. Without an operating system, the CPU would be confused and useless for everyday tasks. That is why the CPU and operating system needs to synergize to work effectively. I remember I mentioned earlier about the 64 bits, right? What about those 32-bit thing? I wonder why. So I will explain it to you. The introduction of 32-bit processors was, yes, a big step forward. It allowed CPUs to work with more data and access more memory. Thus, this made programs more powerful and complex. Pipelines were introduced to make CPUs faster. Instead of finishing one instruction before starting the next, the CPU overlaps steps. While one instruction is being executed, the next one is already being decoded, and another one is being fetched. Imagine this. I will give an example. Imagine a fast food chicken kitchen. I mean kitchen. Imagine a fast food kitchen. One worker takes orders, another cooks, and another packs the food. They all work at the same time, right? So that's how pipelining works inside the CPU. Another thing is the caches. So caches are small, fast memory. Yeah, it's small, fast memory areas close to the CPU. They store frequently used data, so the CPU doesn't need to wait for slower main memory. Without cache, the CPU would feel like a race car stuck in a traffic. I just realized that those caches are just like RAM, but inside the CPU. And they are still important. Still important. I am curious about GPU and how do they differ to a CPU. No, what is GPU even do? I will explain it to you. So the GPU or graphics processing unit is designed for graphics and visuals. It handles images, videos, and animations. While the CPU is good at handling general tasks, the GPU is great at doing many small tasks at the same time. Think about this. If the CPU is a smart manager, the GPU is a massive team of workers all doing tiny jobs together. This makes a perfect for rendering graphics. So I use GPU for video editing and playing games. But GPU is not just for games. They are used in video editing, like I said earlier, 3D modeling, and even AI or artificial or intelligence. When rendering a video frame, the GPU might process millions of pixels at once. Doing that on a CPU would be slow and painful. So the GPU works alongside the CPU. The CPU will give an instructions and the GPU handles that heavy visual work. That is why I love those GPUs, right? That is why I can play games and video edit. Let's go back to microprocessors in general. We still need to learn and know their workflow, right? That's why SAP exists. SAP1 exists. So SAP1 is just stands for simple as possible computer, I mean. It is not really commercial computer. It's just a learning model used to understand how computers work at a basic level. SAP1 has simple components like registers, an ALU, memory, and a control unit. It follows the same instructions instruction cycle as real CPUs, but in a much simpler way, just to understand how do they work. SAP 1 operations include loading data, adding numbers, storing results, and stopping an execution. Everything happens step by step. You can actually see how data moves through the system if you will learn it. Think of SAP 1 as a transparent computer. Nothing is hidden, every signal and operation is visible, which makes it perfect for learning. For me, it's essential to learn those, just to see how complex these things work and how they help people to understand. But what if we program them? Right? Think of it. Program SAP 1. Is it possible? Well, I think it is because SAP 1 programming exists. So, programming SAP 1 means writing very basic machine level instructions. It is a set of instruction in a very basic machine. There will be or there is no keyboard or mouse. You yourself directly control what the computer does using instructions. Each instruction tells SAP 1 to load data, perform a calculation, or even store a result. Those programs are stored in memory and executed one, I think, one instruction at a time. This kind of programming feels slow and strict, but it teaches you on how real computers work underneath modern software. It shows how software directly controls hardware. Programming SAP 1 is like giving instruction to a robot that only understands very basic commands like stand, sit, smile, blink, like that. You must be clear and precise, right? Or nothing will work. So these are just the things that mind blown me as a computer engineering student. The computer that we use are no, you know, more complex than we think, and how innovations and evolutions of these are the most essential or important things to happen just for just one goal, to make fast to make it fast and efficient, right? This is why in today's world these things are a must. It's a must because it's important to our society. Remember that it's important to our society. These are important. Think of it as pillars or foundation. They are foundation on why we have these super fast computers, servers. You can even I noticed on news that they are building those what they call uh, quantum computers. They are so powerful. They are so powerful. It's unbelievable. So they are the reason why you can do video editing. I always do video editing for this video, and also coding, and also playing games. It's so you know the the thrill inside it. It's so unbelievable how these things evolve. Because 50 years ago, it's not like this. We still have to be responsible though. Because this is so powerful, yet dangerous if used incorrectly. We discover, build, and improve technology to help. That is our main goal. And that will be our only goal, not to destroy or, you know, violence. No, 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 no. We are developing, building, discovering, improve technology just to help and to make our lives easier. That's it. So that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. This video is for my finals. I hope you learned and then see you again. Goodbye. 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 Thank you.